Get all emotional. For those who don't know, I am Courtney Schaefer. This is my husband, Brandon. And when we were planning this class, we were going to ask you guys to ask questions. And one time I was saying, I thought, wouldn't it be great to have our husbands up there talking? Thinking Linda would say, oh, yeah, but we're going to keep it a girls' class. And she said, oh, yeah, let's have your husbands. When you guys speak, let's invite your husband in. We're like, oh. Yay. And then it just happened to be when I counted out the weeks where Brandon and I were going to be in here together, it happened to be like a busiest week. We had a mud run at our house yesterday, and I thought, oh my gosh, like really, Lord? But there's been such like a grace for this week, and I think one of the cool things about what God has for our marriage is a gift of hospitality and a gift of loving on others. And so I thought how appropriate that God would pick a really busy weekend to have us up here in front of everybody, where we could have been pulling each other's hair out yesterday. We could have been, there could have been a lot of stress. The world would have used yesterday to be discouraging for us. We had tons of volunteers that couldn't come. There was a list of things that could have happened. And so that morning we got up yesterday, I turned on my phone and texts just started coming like, I can't make it, I ran over my dog. You wouldn't believe the text that I got yesterday. And I kind of woke him up, which by the way, he's covered in poison oak. It's been a really difficult week for him. And he's like, so are you excited? I said, okay, well, here's what's going on. Let me just tell you. And he's like, yeah, but it's good. We got it. We can do this. And I was like, you're right, we can. And I posted on Facebook. I didn't tell you this because he doesn't do Facebook, but I do. And I just said, for me and my house, we serve the Lord. No matter what happens, no matter what comes our way, Brandon and I are going to choose to serve the Lord. And it's been a bumpy process to get there, but God's been so good in our marriage and with our children and in our own personal relationships that it's been such an honor. And so people say, well, how do you guys get stuff done? I just think, how do we not? We've been given such a gift. And how do we not have the energy to do it and to do it with, I know Mark says he's not supposed to be my best friend, so my husband, I won't call him my best friend, but literally I enjoy doing so much with him. And so to have him here today and to have him answering these questions, it's going to be little. It's going to be fun, right? So we've been married now 15 years. We've been together about 20 years, and we have 4 kids. My oldest daughter was 6 months old when I met Brandon. We got married when she was 6. Yes, so we have a college student, we have a sophomore in high school, a daughter that is in 7th grade, and our youngest daughter is in 4th grade. Brandon's worked for Cox Cable since we met, 20 years. He had just got his job there. And we have walked our marriage has been,
ups and downs.
For me, it was love at first sight. I saw him at a party. He had asked me, hey, got my name, we should hang out, we should do, and I was awestruck, right? The whole night went on, and he didn't talk to me again. And I'm pretty persistent, so I went to find him because I had to go home. He was kissing a girl, and I walked right up. I tapped him on his shoulder, and he turned around, and he went, hold on, and continued. And I stood there, I'm just going to wait, okay. He turned around, he said, yes. I said, I have to go. You were going to get my number. We were supposed to go out. And he's like, okay. So literally the girl stood there, I stood there. He walked to the other room, got a pen, wrote down my number. I walked away, and I don't even know. I don't even know. And years later, after many friendships and different things, God brought us back together and changed our hearts, and it's been really cool. And so be persistent sometimes. Sometimes boys need a tap on the shoulder. They don't always notice how wonderful we are. A tap, not a slap, nothing too extreme. Just a little gentle tap and a wait, a softness there waiting for him to realize it, and it was definitely worth the wait. So, Brandon Schaefer.
Very good. Thank you for that introduction.
Yeah.
Of all the stories. So,
Wait.
Courtney,
Oh, yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
can you guys hear me? No?
I have a thing with turning on these things.
There it goes. Hello? Yep. Okay. We good? I can put this thing down too. So Courtney had asked me, has this list of questions you guys kind of, filled out of different things you had a question about. And so I go down through the list and kind of, oh, this one's easy, and not going to answer that one ever. And so I kind of just went over some things last night. This is actually took a couple hours last night to go over some of these and answer them and not be too offensive and not be too honest. And no, just kidding. But some of them I will be. So I'll just kind of read the question, and then I'll just kind of give you guys my just general answer, and then I just kind of elaborate from there. So the first one I wanted to do is the easiest question of all to me. If you could say one thing to a woman and they can't be offended, what would it be? And my wife
Don't be
goes,
offended.
Don't be offended, okay? That was in the
learning in
question.
this
I didn't
class.
put that in there. All right. So this is the easiest question of the whole group of questions, and that is, stop being controlling. And so what I mean by that is the controlling aspect of women in relationships and friendships and dating and stuff like that is, to me, it's a bigger sign of a relationship or a character flaw in with a couple or something like that. And when a woman is overly controlling, it changes the whole dynamic of friendships and relationships and stuff. And I think you see it a lot of the time if you're ever in a group of people and one of the women will be real controlling with their husband or their boyfriend or something like that. And it changes the whole dynamic of relationships. You can just see the guy's shoulders drop, and just the relationships change, and the women are turned off even. But she walked out of there, she won, so she thinks. But I think that's the biggest thing, that I would recommend to a woman is not being so controlling. You guys are designed with grace and love and all that mushy stuff. And that's what you want to bring out of a relationship, I think. And
Can you give us some concrete controlling, like you said you're in a room, but I'm not sure. Can you give us some ideas of what that?
I've never given him really any real life examples. So it's going to be a stretch, but I don't know. Let's see if he has anything.
did you see that? Jim, can you turn her off? No, I don't know of something that would jump out at me right off the bat, but it's the little things, like I'm ready to go, and just constantly challenging the
Where we
man.
sit in church. Where we sit in a church. That's one of our biggest things, yeah?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He walks in and finds a perfect seat, and I'm like, why are we sitting here?
We have to
We
sit
should be
on this
sitting over
side.
here.
We
We should
have
be
to
sitting
sit
on
here
that side.
on
Why
the
are we
edge
sitting
and-
that? I can't hear over that person singing.
And it's easy just to go along with it, but it's kind of like, what's the point? And so there's a ton of them. We could spend all day, I think, on that one question. But, those type of things. But I think the biggest one I was trying to get across is if you're in a group of people, you can see that sometimes in some women and how they interact with their boyfriend or their husband. And you just see the demeanor of that whole group change with that one or two people that are overly controlling in the relationship. So those are the type of things in that one I was kind of referring to. But it can be in a bunch of different things. And I think we all kind of know what different things that we can be overly controlling in, And so hopefully that kind of helps. We can go back to that later. I'm just going to move on to other ones here. All right, so this one. Do men want to be the sole provider? Do they like their women to work? So this question really hits home for Courtney and I. Recently, my job kind of changed, and things got really tight for us. My job used to have a lot of overtime and stuff, and it was great, and that kind of all disappeared. And so we figured that that Courtney could go back to work and work part-time and, help out with the bills and stuff like that. And so, but the problem with that was it changed the whole dynamic of the house. Yes, we now had some money and, oh man, I had all these great ideas of all these things we wanted to buy, guys and their toys, right? But really it all came back to the dynamic of the house and how much it had changed. And it's hard to explain it in words because a lot of it's just kind of feelings that you kind of feel in the family. But, the kids' relationship with everybody was different. Courtney was different when she got home. I was different. The meals are different. We're going out to dinner. I'm going out to dinner with the kids, and Courtney's not there, and she's tired, and she wants to go home. And, we're out at a Mexican restaurant, and it's just
Where the woman did not know he was married. They only went on Wednesdays, like every now and then. And I came with him one time. She's like, "Oh, who are you?" I was like, "Who are you? Like, who am I? How often are you here, honey?"
yeah. So, but it changed the whole dynamic, and it was. I think it was. I mean, probably toughest on me, I'd have to say, obviously, But it was tough on Courtney too, and the pressures that were put on her, because she was still felt the pressure of the way she was designed, of being the mom, being the wife, being the housekeeper, being the, everything at the house. But now she has this added responsibility of going to work, checking in on a clock, and that whole aspect of it changed everything. And then the other part of it for me was tough was I felt like I was letting my family down, when my wife had to go to work. That was one of the tougher things, because I felt like, I'm not providing for my family the way I want to, and my wife has to go to work now and stuff, and so it was really tough. We kind of changed some things, and Courtney does a couple little side jobs here and there, and little things, and it brings in a little bit extra money, and things have worked out, and we prayed through it, and we've worked through it.
And we won't be getting a pool or any toys recently,
Yeah.
anytime soon.
Can't finish my gun, so.
Also, on that, I was going to say I don't know how long has it been, maybe 10 years now. I realized Brandon was going to work, and, we had the kids, and I always was home, and he was always at work. So I never had him, get up at night with the kids. That was always, I loved that. I loved being a mom. I was a mom at 17, and it was just kind of one of those things I've done forever, and I loved being with our kids. And so it was never, your turn to get up. I mean, this man goes to bed, and he sleeps all night long. There's not, but I don't say that in, a negative way. I love that I get to spend that time. But I started having breakfast with him, no matter what his shift was. We would get up and have breakfast, whatever it was, as messy as my hair was, or halitosis that was going on. We would sit in the kitchen, and if it's 5 minutes or it's 20 minutes, we would start our day that way. And I want to say that, don't you think that was one of the most pivotal things? So when I started working, missing that, it was like we didn't even see each other. We came home to what have you done all day? And
Yeah, I'd say that was a huge thing. There was I don't even know what sparked it, but there was a point where,
Brilliance.
Yes, complete brilliance, of course. You get ready for work and stuff, but then, one morning Courtney was up there, she had breakfast, and, and we had time, we could talk, the kids weren't there, and it was 15 minutes or so, but it seemed like a couple hours, and it was awesome. And
sometimes I go back to bed.
She'd go back to bed, that's no big deal, I didn't even know that. I thought she'd, get all dressed up and go cleaning the house or whatever she does. But it's that partnership that we were developing, and that's what made it so special. It wasn't that I'm going to work and you can stay in bed and watch soap operas and bonbons. These are our lives, right?
A long time ago.
But it's that partnership, and that she got up, she supported me in my quest to go earn a living for our family. So, all right, so next question. What roles does a woman fulfill that a man can't? So, to me, there's different aspects of this question, but women are designed to be thoughtful, sweet, nice, loving, joyful, all that great stuff. Men can't and shouldn't try to be all these things. As men have been feminized, you may see that men's identities are being lost. If you look at a family, take an injury, for example. This is a perfect natural example of God's creation and what a woman's role is to fulfill. You're the one that cares, nurtures, loves. The man's is, you'll be okay, put some dirt on it, and get back in the game. Are both right? Probably not, but it creates a balance. These characters complement each other so well. Our characteristics are to work together. When they don't, something is out of balance. So when I was writing that out, I was trying to figure out as a way to explain that, but a lot of the time you see women that are overly bearing or too pushy or try to push up into a male's characteristics, and then our society pushes the male to be down towards the women's characteristics, and it blends this whole thing, and then the whole family is just kind of a blob of mush, it seems like. And I think when you take a family as an example, and it can even be in a relationship, it doesn't have to be a family, but you take that and you look at the roles of each one, and as if you have your roles and your identity in your role that you were created with, I think that's what makes you the way God made you, and the man the way God made the man. And I think that I use that injury thing because it's a perfect example. We've all heard it before, the dad that says, "Get back in the game, the bone's not sticking out that far," or something like that, right? And the mom's all, "Oh, I love you, oh, my little baby," and all that. Neither one of those are correct, but there's that balance that it creates, and I think that's what's so cool about the way we were created.
And when you meet in the middle, there's like that mesh of the both sides, the
Mhm.
softness with the
Yep.
with that. Yeah.
Yep. Every time one of my kids gets hurt, I see that balance. Courtney's ready to take him to the hospital. I'm like, this is going to cost us how much, and how bad is it, and how much blood, 1 rag or 2 rags, and so that's the difference, right? All right, so it's kind of an awkward, weird question, this next one. How do you get a man to notice you? What are some flirting techniques that aren't bad? So my wife goes, "Are you kidding?" So I have to say something. I'm just going to read my answer, and then I'm going to kind of elaborate from it.
Gosh.
This question isn't just about flirting. Girls nowadays think they need to show everything to get a guy's attention. You don't need to do that and don't want that kind of attention. Just go back to a character that God created you with. Joyful, friendly, loving, caring, thoughtful. These traits are the ones God wants you to share. Nowadays, you see girls showing everything but a smile. And what I mean by that is, I think that you take a woman in the way they're designed. You guys are awesome. You guys have so much character. The loving, joy, fun, free characteristics that you guys have, that's what you want to share. That's who you want to be. So if you're struggling with relationships or struggling with guys or whatever it is, showing more skin and more whatever, that's not the answer. That's not the type of person you want to attract. But just women nowadays, I think that there's like a kind of a bitterness kind of in some, and the smiles you see and
Just breathing,
she
sorry.
said, "Be careful, don't be too honest." But there's an edge and a bitterness in women that you guys aren't designed with, and I think that it's unfortunate. And I see that hardness. You kind of from guys. Guys need to be the tough ones, not the women. And when we look to a woman and we don't have that love and that smile and things like that, I think that there's that breakdown in relationships.
And that, don't you think that comes from how our society has portrayed men? So there's like this offense, there's kind of like this bitterness. They don't understand us, they don't get us, and we have to prove who we are. I remember when we met, he used to say I was arrogant, right? This is the most arrogant person I've ever met. Oh, you're so like, you
So
walk in
cocky.
a room, you're so cocky, you walk in a room. And it was confidence on my part. I knew from who my dad was, who my Heavenly Father was, who I was, and I wasn't going to be affected by that. And until God changed his heart, did he realize, so some men are just not ready at that time too, and we want to force them. Like, I wanted to make Brandon see me, and he couldn't at that time, And there is that softness, that gentleness, and there is this bit. Hi.
Brody's mom in the nursery.
Oh. This is our daughter, Brooke, who works in the nursery. And this is Brody's mom. There we go. And that's the diaper that's going to be used.
So just a smile and the joy and the love in your face is enough of a flirting technique in most cases. So just to answer that question.
It's that old proverb, you can catch more flies with honey than vinegar.
Yep.
Like, it's true. We don't do, I know I get dated because I love to say like I printed out a whole bunch of old proverbs just from that, but it's so true. We want men to notice us, but we walk around ticked, tired, grumpy, annoyed with everybody, annoyed with the person driving, and we look for that value to come, like we walk in, instead of just walking in knowing that God loves us right when we walk through the door, no matter what our day has taken us through.
One of the things that the girls are being taught now is don't wait for a guy to ask you
That was a question, and I put that on my do not answer list.
You didn't want to answer that one. You don't have to answer.
No.
Who would you tell your daughter?
Oh gosh.
Okay, maybe not.
We're trying to figure out what do men think. There isn't really a wrong answer. We want to know how you guys think.
I don't know. I think it's hard with social media the way it is and stuff like that. It's not like the old days where you just kind of, somebody would go up and ask somebody out on a date. You know, like a guy would normally just go up and ask somebody on a date. And it's not that way anymore. So things change. And so, you know, there's so much of a softer side, like just going to get coffee and stuff. And is that a date, or is that just we're going to get coffee? And so even my daughter, she goes on these, you know, they go to coffee. Was that a date, or is it coffee? You know, and so I think it's tough. And I think that I don't have an answer for that. You know, I think it depends on the person. It depends on the relationship. You know, some of you don't know. I think that that'd be a little more difficult. But some of you you've been hanging out with and you've done some stuff with an event or something, and you asked to go, you know, hey, let's go get coffee sometime or something. I think that's okay, you know. And then I think that allowing a man to pay is, it doesn't make it it's a date, but I think that it helps, you know. And I don't know. I don't really have a complete answer on that one. So, does that help at all? Hopefully.
Yeah.
Next question. All right.
I was gonna say on that dating thing, we always have told Brittany, texting and Facebook and messaging has taken away. I worked,
Oh, yeah.
Brandon worked, and I could not wait to see him on Friday nights. Like I had a pager, these goofy pages from him, and I remember telling Brittany at one point, like, don't text these boys. We give everybody so much access into our life. When I first started doing youth ministry, I was like, I'm gonna leave my phone on all the time. The girls are going to call me at 2, and I'm going to solve all their problems. And then I realized that was stupid and started turning off my phone. And the same thing goes, I think, in relationships. We make ourselves too available, right? And so guys will text us at random times, or friends, and we need to take time for ourselves.
You need boundaries.
We need boundaries. I remember the first time we told Brittany, don't text this boy. Like, wait till he calls you and talks to you. She ran out in the living room. I don't know, she was like 9th grade or something like that. And she's like, when he says my name on the phone, oh my. And I think that's it. That's what you want to feel. You want them to pursue you. We put ourselves out there to be so accessible, right? We want Snapchat constantly. We want, you know what I mean? And we look for that value in that. And that's not, guys are not built that way. I will text him during the day like, I love you, Kay. You don't love me? Like literally you should see our text. You don't love me? What are you talking about? Well, you just put Kay. Yeah, I'm working. I was like, okay. So you do love me. Like, let's go back to that. Yep, honey, I love
Still,
you.
After 50 years.
It's just nice to know sometimes. But you know, you're having one of those days. And in a dating relationship, we kind of have that same thing. We need that guy to do that for, and that's not, and we shouldn't, but we do. And we see it. And it really confuses us. Like, it confuses what we need from men. Because
Yes.
it's not that he doesn't love me, but it's that he's got a room full of men that he's trying to teach something really boring, and I am texting him over and over again.
Yep. But I look forward to her text.
They do have contests at work. Whose wife calls the most and texts the most. It's
Yeah.
like this.
You
Yeah.
have my tally board.
Yeah, they have a tally board. I win on making the lunches, though. That's what I've heard.
Yes, you
so.
do. All right. Next one I'll go over is, why do men have such a hard time with feelings? I know women are more expressive, but men seem to condemn each other for showing emotion. When I read this, it's a really tough question, but I wanted to answer it. First, a little background. I was raised pretty much in a feminist home. My mom taught me that guys are supposed to be emotional, we're supposed to be sensitive, we're supposed to cry in movies, and you know, it's okay, and all this mumbo jumbo stuff.
And shop and get their eyebrows waxed.
Yeah, and
all
all
kinds
that
of
stuff, right? But the problem with that was it was totally confusing to me on who I was, who my identity was, and it wasn't until quite a while later in my walk that I realized that how much my identity was being blended with a female role model of my mom, and who I was supposed to be and who I was created to be. And I think that, you know, why do guys, the question, hang on, where was it? why do guys condemn each other for showing emotion? I think that it kind of goes back to guys need to be guys and girls need to be girls, right? So if we take that general aspect of that, when you're in a group and a guy starts getting all sappy with a bunch of other guys, we kind of joke with them about, you know, like, give me your man card back and things like that. And it's our way of saying, you know, this is who you are. Stay who you are. Stay who God made you to be. You don't need to go to this other side. You know, your wife may be pulling you to that side, but that's not who you are. And so when guys joke with other guys, and I don't do it that often. I do use that one, you know, give me your man card back. But all in all, it's kind of just, we have higher expectations for you. And that's why we joke with each other, you know. I expect you to be the more of the man than you're tending to go, or something like that. And it's not that you can't be emotional, you know, but I think that there's a time that, you know, guys need to be guys. We need to be the pillar and the strength, and the girls need to be the emotional part, right? And that's where that balance comes from. And when there's not that balance there, the whole thing breaks down. The whole structure breaks down. And so, you know, that's kind of why I think guys kind of joke with each other, and I think that's the aspect of it that...
And do you think that guys spend as much time talking about, like, your relationships or us women as we think you do?
No, there was a question in there. It was talking about, like, what do you talk about us or something? I don't remember how it went, but...
They don't.
I never talk about
They do tally
you guys
marks
at all.
on a board, right? And that's about it.
Yeah, that my wife called, or, you know, and that's it. And so, you know, there's not that... We don't talk about what you guys are wearing. I'm sorry. You know, and we don't, I don't, at least. I don't know, maybe you guys know some other people that talk about that stuff, but I don't talk about
But men
them at
aren't
all.
as conversational about us as we think you guys are, correct?
No, not at all.
There's no
No.
stories that happen or...
No, we don't tell stories. We don't talk about...
And I don't think that guys are like locker room talkers like some people think too, like comparing women.
No.
Our society, our media kind of portrays that. Do you
There's some
think?
joking that, like, guys will do sometimes, like, at work and stuff, and half of the guys it's really uncomfortable and don't get involved, and then there's those guys that are still, I think, stuck
And
in
those would
high
be
school.
guys that are like in the world and not
Yes,
seeking after
very
the Lord.
much so.
Yeah.
Yep. All right. I think I've kind of gone through my
Thank you.
questions I'm supposed to. Anything else? Any other questions or anything? Yes. Yes.
Why do guys not like to talk about their marriage?
That's a good question.
Why do
She's-
guys not like to talk
yeah.
about their marriage with their friends?
For me, I don't a lot for a couple different reasons. Part of it is it's hard. I think that Courtney and I have a pretty successful relationship, and we have our faults and we have our disagreements. But the people I work with, I'll use them as an example, their relationships are dysfunctional as could be. And it's hard to, my relationship stands on its own merit, and I don't want to talk about it because their relationship's already in a crumble, you know? And so it's really hard for me to, you know, say, oh, Courtney and I, we do this, Courtney and I do that, when I just rather our actions kind of speak for what our relationship is, you know? And recently, one of the guys I work with, he's started going to church and has taken his wife and his kids and stuff like that. And so it's been really neat. And I haven't changed anything that I know of, you know, but I've been who I am, and I've shared what my relationship is and stuff. But me as a guy, I just don't like talking about that stuff, you know? And so it's kind of hard to do that.
I think at times I've asked him, like, if we've been, with his family, we've had a lot of stuff that's happened, right? And I've come home, I'm like, why didn't you defend me? Why didn't you say, like, how great I am? Like, they just sit there and they don't know the wonder that you've married. And he's like, why do I need to? Guys are not, like, they use a lot less words. And so by him supporting us, like, it stands on its own, by him working, by him loving on his kids, and by watching our children around. You know, now his family comes back and says, your kids are amazing, and we've watched this kind of stuff. And we didn't have to say
Yeah,
anything.
they say your kids are amazing. I don't know why, but your kids are amazing.
They
They're
do
like,
say that.
thank you.
Yeah, or we'll be at dinner places and people will recognize there's a difference about our family. People at church will watch. We realize that people are always watching, and actions speak louder than words.
Yeah. And so for guys, it's easier to just have actions, at least for me, than to tell people.
And I think
So,
we
in
want
some
them to use
cases.
words to describe how, great our marriage. I wish he would stand up in church every Sunday and
Yeah.
say, I don't think we're good, But that's not the value of our marriage. It doesn't need to be in that way.
Right.
That makes
So
sense.
hopefully that helps. Any other questions? Yes.
Oh, gosh.
What would you do if a girl asked Camden out for coffee on a date? How would you advise him?
No.
He's 14.
He's 14. A little pot stir over there.
What would you say, honey?
At this point,
Yeah, 16. He's 16 or 17.
to go to coffee?
He would high five him. I was going to tell you that,
No,
right?
I would not.
Oh, my gosh.
No,
He would
I
high five him when I'm not. You totally would.
No, I would not.
Okay.
All right, I'm trying to get to the 16 part. That he's 16 now all of a sudden.
I know.
I don't know. I think coffee's kind of harmless. I mean, especially like so many of the high schoolers and stuff, they go over for coffee, as groups and individuals, and then there's 2 more people over there. I kind of think coffee's kind of harmless. So
And do,
I would hope he'd pay if it was more of a date and maybe he was 17.
do you think there's like a value, though, in just getting to know some? I know you've told Brittany that. Like, you don't have to just commit, right? Like, finding out if you even like the person first or spending time together.
Yeah, I think there's a value in friendships. Like Courtney and I, our first date was a disaster. We fought. I mean,
We literally fought.
We literally
We got
fought.
in a fight. Like,
twice, I think, or something
Twice.
like that. Yeah, and it was pretty much a disaster. But then from there, we just hung out as friends. All the pressure was gone, and we just became friends. And it was weird. It's just like, oh, this is cool. This is normal for like 2 years or something. We were just friends, and that friendship is what made us, I think, where we are now and who we are.
we
Not
weren't
the
just
dating.
friends hanging out. I was dating his best friend.
Yeah, that's you. Sorry.
So it wasn't like, because, I'm really, I think.
We didn't
some-
get along at all at first. and
Yeah,
so
but there was something that dressed, but it wasn't, I don't agree with having like a guy as your best friend, so
No.
there's that I think you,
No, I think that's a bad trend in our society, is girls that hang out with guys a lot and
let's say all
or
my
have-
friends are guys.
all my
I'm
friends are
more
guys.
relatable.
There's definitely a breakdown in relationships when you do that. I mean, you're putting a huge wall up. Like, guys are like, I don't know who she's dating or what the deal is. I'm staying completely away from her. So you've kind of ostracized yourself from a huge array of men. And then how do you transition once you do start dating and all your friends are guys? How do you change that? And then your wedding party is weird if you're gonna have any guys on there. You've seen movies on that. So
You've seen a lot of movies on
yeah,
that?
all. But no, I think there's a breakdown there, and I think that you can have guys that are friends, but when all your friends are guys or something like that, I think that's unhealthy.
Well, yeah, I always grew up saying like guys were my friends, like they were
Mhm.
easier. Girls are so emotional, and I'm not gonna. I mean, even until like a few years ago, even like with work parties and stuff, I would go meet the guys for lunch. It put me in a really awkward position. I just thought, oh, they're easier than the women, but the women resented me, and I had no relationship with them that way. And I always said, oh, it's because guys are easier, but it was a defense mechanism on my part. And so those first women like all of his guy friends' wives, still to this day they don't know me now. At this point, they didn't want to get to know me because I put such a wedge between the two of us, which didn't bring honor to Brandon. It brought like a cloud kind of over our marriage, where it was like, oh, are we going to a Christmas? Is Courtney going to be there? Because I was outgoing and I knew all the guys
And pretty.
and pretty. Oh, you're so kind. And so it kind of really blended this in like a really weird, uncomfortable way. And I had to make a really until I started having like really good, positive female friendships, did I realize the value in those. Is that, yeah?
Mhm.
And then that brought a change to our marriage and a security, I think, right? That
Yep.
came.
Yep.
You have that. I don't know what that means.
Well, the question was about coffee for Camden, so
Oh, yeah.
it's kind of skewed.
Sorry.
All right.
So Camden can go get coffee with girls.
Yes.
He can? Okay.
At 16. 16. Yes.
She asked me a question, I didn't know the answer for her, and
for a guy.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. I get what you're saying.
No, it makes complete sense because I've had a couple conversations with a couple people that recently are in the same boat. They're like, we've been going to get coffee and we've been hanging out, but when does it become official? Or, you know,
Not foothills dating.
yeah.
Have
or
we heard
this-
that? We've heard that.
Yeah.
It's my favorite.
I think that, gosh, that's a tough one because there's a lot of guys that are just so, you know, you see how many guys just can't commit, you know, and our society is that way too. And so I think it's a tough situation to be in. I think that there's a point in your relationship of, let's just say, start off with your coffee and then you know, to the point where you would, okay, we're officially dating and so on, right? Where
Who would
there's a
you-
point where you need to be forward and like, I need to know where this is going, you know, and that's to stand up for who you are, right? And what I mean by that is, don't let the guy kind of take advantage of you. You know, yeah, you guys are going to coffee and he buys dinner and it feels like a date and it seems like a date. You know, okay, we've been dating and where's this going? You know, and if he doesn't want to commit, I think that nowadays, I feel bad for you guys because guys aren't committing, and I think that you need to be honest. There was a point in our, it's funny, there was a point in our relationship where Courtney and I, she gave me an ultimatum of, you know, I need to know, are we going to get married or not? And
It
I was
so
like,
not funny.
yeah, it backfired kind of on her, but then it didn't.
Yeah, I didn't. I'm
Um,
married now.
She told me that, and I was not really saved at the time, and I was like, I never plan on getting married. I plan on being single the rest of my life and
Having a dog.
having
and
a dog
car
and a
house.
nice house, and you know, we're just hanging out and dating. Why? And so it kind of took me back, and so we broke up, and then God does miraculous things and brought us back together at a party and stuff. And
No, that was after. That was way after.
what was it?
It was a weekend. It was one weekend we spent apart.
Oh, that's right.
I
yeah.
told him not to call me,
That's
not
right.
to. We have to guard our hearts, women. I think we're
Yeah.
too open and accessible to people, and we need to be intentional about our relationships, don't you
Mhm.
think? Our friendships and our relationships with guys. We're too like, everybody's our friend, right? We have tons of friends, we have tons of followers, but we have to have intentional friendships. We can't say yes to everything.
Right.
Right? As much as I would love to spend time with a lot of women or mentor girls or whatever it may be, there's few relationships in my life that I can really carve out the time needed. And we don't value ourselves, so we take second best, right? We take
Mhm.
second best from the guys we hang out with. We allow second best for what we give our children or our other friends. And so being intentional,
Yep.
having that, you know.
So hopefully, did that help answer your question, kind of?
And I
So-
think ask, say, where is this going?
Yeah.
What is, and half the time, like, guys aren't ready yet because we have a society of a lot more single moms in homes.
Mhm.
And so they've not seen like a strong real. So I don't want it to seem like it's a diss on the guys. I mean, basically,
No.
we need Jesus in every aspect of every relationship. And our young men need to find their worth in him and not find their worth in us. So by us being too accessible to them, they become dependent on us instead of dependent on the Lord.
Yes, that's
Does that
a
make
huge one
sense?
that you see a breakdown.
Yeah.
You know, and their identity starts to become in you, and that's not healthy at all for anybody, for either one.
Mhm.
And then it gets messy. So
Everything's
yes,
messy.
can be.
How would you feel if, when you were younger in high school, if the sister of Courtney to ask you what your intentions?
Oh, we don't want to talk about high school.
Yeah, high school's off limits. Gosh, I don't know.
High school was different for him. He wasn't
Yeah.
saved at the time.
Yeah, high school was totally different. I didn't enjoy high school at all. I thought it was a miserable time, but you know, I don't know. Sorry.
It's a tough one.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
But okay, so say
I'll
when we
think
were
about it.
dating longer and like when you talked to my dad or my sister, what would be something?
Yeah. Something.
It's okay.
I don't know. Let me think about that one. I might come back to that one.
Yeah. Anybody else?
All right. Anybody else? Yes.
Ariel.
I've been told a couple times that by going out like with, like just say you're
I think that goes back to the whole feminist thing. You know, let a guy open a door for you. Let a guy buy you a meal. You know,
I let friends buy me a meal. Like if Linda takes me to coffee, she'll buy me coffee.
Yeah.
It's like a sign of endearment. We don't gift people anymore. We don't value people anymore.
there has to be a catch to it if you're going to buy
We
you
have to
something,
earn
you
our
know?
own way. Does that make sense? And I can pay for myself. I don't need you to pay for me. Oh, no, you can pay for me. Even when we had a bad date, he was going to pay for me, and I'm going to order a little extra.
But one other piece of that I will have to say that kind of brings that up is a guy opening a door for you and stuff like that. It amazes me how many women are so awkward when a guy does open a door for you. I open a door and the girl looks at you like, what are you doing? You know, let it close so I can reopen it. And I don't understand it. And it's awkward and, you know, but look at those things. When a guy does do that, I mean, not reward us, but, you know, a thank you, a smile, you know, a little hurry to the door, you know, those type of things. It amazes me that that's been lost to the level it has. You know, so if a guy wants to buy you, I mean, it could be just completely harmless, you know, but I say let him because, first of all, if you go back to his role, you know, he's supposed to be
provider.
earning, he's supposed to be the worker, and so for him to hand down, pass down, you know, I just think that it's a nice, graceful thing.
Let him
regardless of
order for you,
strings.
too. It's exciting to watch sometimes, like, order for me. Surprise me. Like, you just
What?
see what they're... Well, not now, because seriously. I was thinking the thing, too, Brandon did a really good job with Camden, going back to Camden. He was at school a year ago in a crowded room, and there were no chairs, and a group of girls walked in, and Camden got up. No one said anything, just got up and gave the girls chairs. Did Camden think that was any big deal? Not at all. Didn't remember. So I get these texts from these moms. Remember that? Oh my gosh, Camden she came home and she was so like, he's such a gentleman, and oh my gosh, what are your plans for his future? I was like, Camden, what did you do at school today? He's like, peanut butter on his face. I don't know. What did I do? And it's not even something that it's like, it's just modeled by Brandon so well how to care for us as a family that Camden has just picked it up. And so if we allow, I am very capable. I'm super strong. I'll be carrying boxes into church, and I'll have a guy come up like, oh, let me get
strong.
those. I am so strong.
She's so strong.
Let me get those. I'm like, no, I'm fine. I got it. No. Okay, here. Let them carry them for you. They are there. They are so useful, and it makes them feel good. I can literally, like when we have stuff going on at the house, Brandon will have a lot of guys up, and I can do it, but they're right there. Okay, sure. Here, guys, do it. Thank you so much for doing that for me.
Yep.
Thank the men. When they do, acknowledge it. Yeah?
Yeah.
Do you agree?
Oh, yeah.
Like, acknowledge it.
Brandon, just on the other side of the coin,
Mhm.
there is that portion of society where if a guy buys me an expensive dinner and a couple times in a row, there's an expectation for sexual favoritism. How you're saying let him do this? Can you maybe give us a little bit of guidelines? Because
I think that then you
Do you agree
are...
with sexual favors?
What?
No, I'm just teasing. Just wanted to throw you off.
You did.
If the question wasn't enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm watching him blush.
I think that as godly women, if you're looking for a godly man, then you should be, if that type of thing comes up, that's awesome because you know you've got a door to close and you get the heck out of there. I mean, I think it's that simple. I wouldn't, well, I can fix him and I can work with him and he just misunderstood and, he did buy me this or that. No. I think first of all, he's only buying you a meal because he wants something from you and not because he wants a relationship or, a friendship or something. So I think that is a huge, I think if I was a girl, I'd be like, great, I know where he stands.
Our
easy
daughter,
peasy, I'm out
our
of here.
daughter just had that. Brittany got taken out to dinner. This guy, she said, he's so great. Took her to a really nice dinner. And they started talking, and she realized, he does not love the Lord. Like, he's not even close to where I thought he was. So she went home, she's like, I'm just going to let it slide. Like, it's dinner and whatever. And then she was really convicted like 3 days later. So she texts him and says, I really appreciate our time together, but we are in two different places. And he texts back, okay, great, thanks. And she was so offended. She called, she's like, what was he thinking? Like, I'm like, but you told him no. And she's like, yeah, but he didn't even argue with me or debate it. I was like, wait, he did exactly what you told him to do. And now you're mad and offended. She goes, oh yeah, I just have to say it, like I'm just mad and offended, but it's what she wanted, but we don't even enjoy when we get what we want. Do you agree? We demand something, and then it's like, why did you treat us that way when that's exactly what we deserved? So it's just kind of funny. It is a sign for us. There's all these things that are like right in front of us, but we still just don't want to see it. Yeah?
Yes.
So in the context for married people,
Mm-hmm.
you know Courtney can carry the 40-pound bag of chicken feed down to the chickens.
Mm-hmm.
But if she asked you to do it, would you be like, no, do it yourself, I know you can do it? Or would you be like, yes, I'd love to help you, this is my role?
Yes, I would love to help her, and it's my role.
Just because
Camden, I need you to take that.
I think we get comfortable in our marriages and like, you know that she can do that. and
Yeah.
Maybe we
I think I think you can take advantage of that type of thing. I mean, honestly, Courtney's a strong woman. If you ever need something moved, she is awesome. Okay?
And I can wrestle, and I can almost beat.
No. Let's not go that far. I mean, like, we have this donkey, and this donkey grabs me and throws me across the pen. She grabs this donkey and just moves him right across. I'm like, holy smokes. So, yes, you can take advantage of your spouse, and what she's capable of. And so I tendency to get lazy and stuff and allow Courtney to do too much. And so there's a lot of times. Did she tell you to ask that?
I'm just
I
like,
don't
we're
think
talking
it-
about dating and there's a lot of married women.
Yes.
Yeah.
I know.
Definitely.
Yes.
I don't know if it makes sense, but like how you're
Both joyful and soft, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
what about like girls who are like strong? I was thinking, where does the girl really too strong and like, I can be myself? Is that something to balance of bothering yourself and having instead of
I think Courtney is an example of that. At least she is to me. She's very strong. She's confident in who she is, but she is sweet, soft, cries, the whole gamut. So, no, I mean that in a good way.
Sounded
But-
so.
Sorry, but there's confidence in who you are. I think I don't know if you're mixing up like being strong in your identity of the woman you are versus being loving, smiling, those joyful things. The things when I look through here, there's like 4 faces that automatically pop out as that like loving, caring, smile. And that's what I mean by that characteristics that God created you with.
God made us to be, oh, sorry, honey.
No, go ahead.
God made us to be responsive and to have
Yeah.
a responsive spirit for men. Like that is our number one goal. So if Brandon comes in the house and the donkey's got out, the goat is in my living room, the kid, who knows what has happened. If he walks through the door and I can wear it all over. Now I can make it all go away. I can make it all better. Dinner will be done. House will be clean. And I can go, oh, good, you're home. Like, let me tell you about my day. It completely takes everything out of him. It doesn't matter what happened. Brandon walks through that door and it's smile. I mean, for the most, do you agree?
I'm just wondering where you're going.
Oh, no, it changes the whole thing. There's that saying that don't let the spirit that controls others control you. I remember I was mopping my floor, like on the hands and knees after, like I'd had a big dinner party, thinking like, oh my gosh, my house is getting, 3 things I think were broken that, like a long time ago, that high school thing, lamps and my glass, and I'm cleaning my floor, and the Lord convicted me right there, like you have a home. You have the people that have walked on this floor and sat at this table have all been people. And right then, it was a change in my spirit that I'm going to pray as I do my laundry and as I mop the floor and as I do dishes, because God has given us that platform and that gift. And so we don't need to be strong. The society tells us, yes, we have to like defend ourselves and stand for ourselves. But the Bible tells us be confident in who God is. And that confidence, do you agree, would be more appealing than anything else?
Yes.
We don't need to stand. I don't need to defend myself to Brandon ever. I know that he will go before me. And I know that if other people are maybe against me, God will work it out. There are a lot of people that don't like me. And I used to be really worried about trying to get them to like me or be strong enough, like not let it bother me. It bothers me. If you don't like it, breaks my spirit and my heart. But God loves me as I am, and I'm just going to keep pushing forward. Does that make sense? And then that becomes an attractive quality. Like,
Yep.
things go wrong, really wrong. I say really stupid stuff to Brandon, to others around us. I don't do well with the kids sometimes. But God, I can get up the next day, ask for forgiveness, and keep going. I don't have to prove my worth in any way in that aspect.
All right. Anybody else? Yes.
When you guys started having kids, did you want to do a lot of extra things still before you had kids? I know you had kids young, it sounds like.
Mm-hmm.
But was it hard for you guys, for Courtney staying at home, or did you have like expectations for her to stay at home so you could work more or do activities that you want to do? Like, does that make sense?
Kind of. So
Like
hopefully I
guy
can summarize.
activities, right? Like guy, he wants to go out and do guy stuff. Yeah, hobbies.
Or if you're like, if you want to make extra money because you don't like the job you have or something.
Like side jobs and
Yeah.
stuff. Or for him,
Yeah,
it was
I-
overtime.
I do overtime and side jobs and stuff, and so that's my way of supporting my family. But as far as like, I don't know, part of your question I thought was, you know, having kids, having kids
Spending time
early in
together.
a relationship, or
Did you still want to do a lot of things just, for you?
oh, okay, I gotcha.
And was that hard to have that change?
So, Courtney and I are when we started dating, and then even moving into our marriage, and then into having kids. So those 3 little stages there of our life. Courtney was the type that's super supportive in anything that I wanted to do or whatever we were doing. She was on board, and
I love motorcycles. Who knew?
yeah, go figure. You know, and so she was just always part of it, and I took it for granted, to be honest with you. But like, I'd ride dirt bikes, and I'd go to the track, and she'd come with me, and she'd just hang out, and that to me was the coolest thing ever. It was just supportive, and I enjoyed it and stuff. Ended up joining like a softball league and a football league at church, and she'd come to every game, and she was supportive in everything. There's a transition that I've transitioned away from that type of stuff, and I don't do as much of those things as much anymore. There's a little bit of a struggle every once in a while where I want to go to the track and go ride, with the guys, and and part of me, used to come and support and watch me ride, and now she's like, I got other stuff to do, and so I think it's tough because it's kind of like, where is a balance in there, of a guy having his identity and hanging out with his friends, or doing everything together as a spouse, or as a couple and stuff. And so I think I don't know.
I
Ours
learned
has
to take
transitioned a lot.
Yeah, I learned to take joy in his hobbies.
Yeah.
I learned to ask him stuff that I probably don't really care about. No offense, but I would figure out who was riding Supercross, and I would go because I wanted to spend time with him, and I wanted to encourage him in those manly things, in those guy things. But he's never been much of like a guy, like never guys trips or guys weekends or
Yeah.
things like that. I started
I
girls
have some
weekends
friends
a
that go
little
to
while
Vegas
ago.
together, and I'm like, no.
Yeah.
what?
Brandon's not
But,
one. He's a really hard worker, and I think it was when we had Camden is when we started with, Brittany was 6, so we did a lot when we were dating. We would hang out after Brittany was in
Yeah.
bed. I never wanted my daughter to feel like I was leaving her for someone else, and so then once we got married, it was just kind of like instant. We always say we're going to travel now once our kids are older. We started early, so we're going to have our honeymoon at the end because we're still super young.
Yes. So yeah.
Telling myself. I mean,
But I think that I think there's a time when guys need to go do stuff with guys, and I think that there's a times when it's nice to have your wife come along and supporting you in something you're doing. Does it have to be all the time? I don't think so.
I tried to encourage it too at the home too. Invite your friends over, whatever you guys need.
Yeah, she loves that.
And invite their
you know.
wives and invite their kids. So I could either see it, it was like one of those things where I realized, okay, I could either be offended by the time he wants to spend away from me, or I can make him love the time that he's around me, so then it just naturally blends together. Does that make sense? It's again having that really soft spirit and being welcoming and being, a lot of us have been hurt by guys in our life, and we've been raised to kind of be that tough exterior, right? And I'm not going to let a man in, and not going to let, in high school, I went through a really, really difficult situation with the guy where it completely changed my view on what men wanted and how we were to be treated, which no one should have to go through. And so society would have told me, like, put your wall up, never let men in, guard your heart. And God had other plans. And so I never hold myself back from Brandon, right? Because God's placed him in my life. And now that we're married, obviously not in a dating relationship, but to be responsive to him. You know, we are meant to, like, touch each other and spend quality time together, no matter if the babies are screaming. Lock the door. They'll be fine. They'll be fine in the crib for half an hour. You know, just take your time together. It's super important. It is so, because guys aren't the ones, in his world, what he has going on is work, you know, time clocks and all this stuff and bills. And in my world, it's like, I just want to spend time together and talk about what the day went, you know. I use a lot of words in a day. And so the time when I do have him, I want to captivate his attention in the best way I can. And that's being responsive, talking a little less, right?
Yep, a little less.
Being feminine, like just being soft and being there to listen.
Yeah.
Yeah?
One of the things I think that, like with Courtney and I, is we do a lot of stuff together. And I know a lot of other friendships and relationships that I have that don't. You know, they have their own identities. And I think you even see that in today's society is, you know, I'm going to go to college, I'm going to get my career, I'm going to buy my house, then I'm going to get married, and by then I'm 30-some years old, and I have my identity, right? And then the wife, she's going to have her own identity, and then you have these two identities going through life together, where some people, like in the olden days, used to start a younger relationship, you know, and you build your identity as one, and that pillar of your relationship. And I think that Courtney and I, we built that relationship together, and our relationship is the two of us and with the things we do. And so a lot of the stuff I would have probably had of my own identity has come back and changed into our identity as under God. Does that make sense? So.
And it was a long, bumpy road. I was really controlling, don't you? You would attest in the beginning. I mean, when I got married, it was, or when we were both there. We both got married. But Brandon's mom's super controlling, and it was like a contest between the two of us, like to where she would go to the lady that cut his hair before he got an appointment and like take a picture. Like we were married. She was making his dentist appointments, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna win this one. Like I'm gonna outdo the hair. And it was this.
It got messy.
It got really messy. It was this weird, like controlling thing, and it was just a few years ago when I just realized, like, I was tired of just trying to control, tired of trying to make it all work. And I never let Brandon walk out what God had intended for him. And in the last like 4 years, it's really changed where I can just rest that he's got it covered, and I'm going to go to him. And then we were just in a meeting like 2 weeks ago where normally I would just be talking and trying to plan it all. And Brandon said, stop. I was like, Brandon and I sitting here. There's a guy sitting over there. And he goes, stop talking, Courtney. And he said, here's what we're here to do. Talk to the guy. They started doing all this stuff. And like 15 minutes, the meeting was done. Exactly what we came for. And I was like, oh, okay. That worked out really good. And I was like, I didn't say anything. But there is some.
You kept.
I didn't. Well, okay, I said a few things, but not to what we were there for. I didn't have anything to say what we were actually in the meeting for.
Yes.
And Brandon handled it. There was no emotion that went into it. There's been such a change in my heart to be soft for him, to be teachable to him, to set down all the things that society, there's like that BuzzFeed, I don't know if any of you guys know what BuzzFeed is, like they do all these funny little anecdotal stuff, you know, and whatever it may be. And there's one on feminism that goes around right now and how men are not what society tells us they are. And if they are acting like that in your life, then those are the wrong men. Like, don't change who you are because the men are goofballs. Change the men you're hanging out with. Start hanging out with real men. Like, there was a conversation I had with someone about catcalls, like, oh, how degrading that is. I'm thinking, well, that is a spirit that is controlling that guy. And how often do we actually get catcalled anymore? I mean, on the way into church, in the grocery store, all the time for me. But in general, it doesn't happen that much. It's not like the movies and society portrays it, right? Like, it's really not a struggle to be a woman. It is like a.
I only catcalled Courtney, and that was it, you know.
Well,
and she gets all like. So.
That's a good thing you're only catcalling me.
Yes, I know, but
Yeah.
I'm saying, you know.
Yeah. But it change. It
Little
has to.
flattery there.
It is flattering. I appreciate it, honey. And he does. He is a husband that I love the aspects, and I had to learn to take the good stuff from his family, as dysfunctional as both of ours was. I had to learn how to benefit from the good things that we have to find good in how our husbands were raised. We have to bring honor to his family, no matter how dishonoring they are to themselves. Right? Does that make sense? Because if I respond to them as they're responding to us, I'm just letting whatever is influencing that person influence me, and that is not Christ-like.
Wrong spirit.
It's the wrong spirit, exactly. And so when I learn to find those things, and they are hard for some people in our life to find those things that are attractive and appealing. But as we start to focus on these and just pray that the Lord shows those good qualities, even in our husbands or our relationships or our friendships, we don't wake up every day just like thinking we're the bee's knees. I mean, there is like some struggles that go on.
Yep.
But remembering that our marriage is designed to reflect Christ and the love of the church, and that I am to be submissive to him, it really puts things in perspective.
Yep.
Yeah?
Yep. And yes.
I would just love to hear, I know everybody's different, our relationships different, but it's just how a wife really embraces her godly design.
Now. I now embrace my godly
Yeah.
design.
Just kidding there.
I'm kidding.
What are some of your favorite things that stand out that you're like, gosh, I'm so glad I have a wife who does that? Because, you don't grow up, what a wife is supposed to be like. This Lord doesn't really like to talk about being married, but I know that's not something true. So just your personal opinion of your relationship. Or like, what are some things that really bless you? Just when she's with you, or that she's doing something we're going to be super comfortable with? Like, what are some things that just stand out that you're just like, wow, I really love that?
Too
I
bad we
look
don't
for-
have more time.
Yeah. I look forward to coming home to my wife. Even if it's been the most stressful day, she still has a smile on her face and she's happy to see me and, is grateful that I went to work, even though, that's what I wanted, what I need to do. There's a joy to come home to my wife, and that's what I see. I know relationships that, the guy has to go home to a screaming baby and the wife hands him and I'm going, and goes in her own room, and, this whole battle, or you got to hear how bad my day was, or here's what the kids did, and all this stuff. And it still happens to Courtney, but there's a joy that as soon as I walk in the door that's there, that I look forward to. And it brings me home. I want to go home to that. I don't want to, sit outside my truck and dread to have to go in the house and get beat up by my wife and get beat up by my kids and stuff.
Verbally, not physically. I don't think we have any abusive.
Well, there's been a couple. But, that's what it is. And that, to me, is back to your design. You guys are the love, the joy, the smiles, that mushy stuff that we need. And when we get home, I don't need to go and battle with a guy that I battled with at work, and come home and battle with somebody else, And so that place that my home is, that my wife makes, that is what it is. And that's her identity too, is in her home that she's creating. And I think that's part of it too.
Which
And
can be, if you're single or married, you can
Yeah.
create identity in your home, your apartment, your dorm room, whatever it may be. When our
everywhere
daughter,
you go is,
Yeah.
your little circle
your
of
car,
influence.
that's the biggest thing for you is cars being
gosh.
clean.
Yeah.
He loves that he can get in my car and there is not French fries, there is not a Happy Meal, there's no trash. This morning there was like a choir notebook and a thing
morning a
rolling
little
around.
challenging,
Yeah,
but
this
it was
morning
all
we had
right.
the mud run yesterday.
all right.
But I think
It's not
that's
going to be perfect every time, but it's the consistency that she's trying, that's where I take, I'm really grateful of how hard, I know she's trying to get
intentional,
to that. Yeah.
intentionally.
No matter how hard her day was,
Yeah.
Hopefully does that help? Okay.
I think I was raised by a mom who loved the Lord, but loved the physical appearance of stuff, right? We would show up at church in our huge dresses. We went to church in Hamul. We were the only people in dresses, let me tell you. Huge dresses and rollers. Sometimes we would forget rollers in the back of our hair because we had to wear the rollers to church so a curl did not fall out in the 10-minute we went there. And we would be fighting and screaming and like killing each other. But my mom's vacuuming and making beds as we're going to church because the president, my dad would always say the president's coming over, we have to make sure. But my dad, being the supportive husband who didn't love the Lord, he didn't know the Lord, he would get up in the morning, make us breakfast, and then sit in the car because he knew my mom was supposed to be on time. So he would be in the car and he'd read the paper and drive us to church and then drive us back home. And so I grew up with this outward appearance, like everything had to be an outward appearance. So then I went through a period where I wore Birkenstocks, I didn't shave, I didn't do my hair, I didn't wear makeup. I was gonna like prove the world I'm good on my own. And when I met Brandon, I was a slob. Did you think I was a slob? Oh my gosh, my apartment was a pigsty. And he'd come, he's like, let's go. Oh my gosh, I can't even walk in here. I'm like, so? Don't walk in here then, I don't need you. I needed him, like I'd clean up, because he'd text, he's like, I'm leaving. You come back, you call me when this place is clean. Sometimes I didn't call, but most of the times I would never tell him. I'd like shove everything into the closet and try and clean it up. And I know people now say, well, you always have your hair and your makeup done. I love that I may run into him somewhere and I have mascara on and that my hair's done. He loves me when when I wake up in the morning for breakfast.
Yeah.
I don't look like that at all. But I take joy in presenting myself to be ready for him, spiritually and physically. I don't dress to impress anybody outside of the world. I do love it when, we talk about cute shirts and stuff, but I don't ever get dressed in the morning thinking about anybody else except for I'm going to bring honor to my husband and my parents and my kids as I walk them to school or as I go into a meeting or how my car looks. It's a representation of my heart, I think.
Yep.
And it's not all perfect, and my closets are a little messy, but we sit at a table that's clean and not cluttered and have amazing conversation. I know that Brandon can love on our kids more because there's not clutter in the kitchen, because I know the things, and I take joy in doing those things. I don't see them as a burden. I don't see them as because the responsiveness I get from him makes it all worth it for me.
Any more questions? Yes.
There's times when a woman's in a serious relationship or marriage and she feels the need to bring something up to her husband or boyfriend or fiance. And it's not something like, I need you to change this because you suck or something. It's like something that's important that maybe for safety for the family or just a serious matter. Like, what's a way to bring it up that doesn't come across as controlling or like challenging to the man? Like, what's a good way to bring it up and still keep the roles where they should be?
The safety part is hard because I think that's really important, especially if you have kids and stuff. But in general, I think that the biggest thing I saw with Courtney was leading by example. If she wanted something to change in me, she changed things in herself. And that's, to me, was the big deal. Like, when she got up in the morning and made breakfast before I went to work, I felt like, wait a second, I didn't even think about it, but subconsciously I started doing more for her around the house and things like that. And she didn't even ask me to do anything like that. She was doing something. So it was kind of like this whole, we both kind of elevated this next level, There are uncomfortable conversations that we have, and those are tough, especially if it's like a safety thing or something. Like if somebody does something that, I know that some people's spouses smoke or something like that, and you have kids.
I was a smoker when we got married. That's why he's saying that.
No, that's not why I was
Oh,
saying it,
okay.
But yeah, she was. Forgot about that.
We came home for our
I
honeymoon.
suppressed that one, so.
And I was smoking, and he's like, wait, we're married. I put a ring on your finger. You're not supposed to smoke. I was like, I didn't say that. Like, what are you talking about? And it took years of me wanting to please him. Not please him, but have him bring honor to him to stop. But I think on hard, I have to be okay that he's not going to love every decision, and he has to be okay that so I have to trust him, and so he kind of is like the deferment. I would love to think that I was on the safety, and ultimately, he probably is wiser on some of that stuff. But sometimes there's just things that you just cannot come to an impasse, and you have to let it go. You can't go to bed. We don't go to bed angry,
Yeah.
right? Do you think? And you just have to go. We've had conversations where it's like, I just disagree, but I'm going to love you, even though there is this disagreement. And I've had to say, like some of the stuff with the kids, I'm like, I don't think that's safe. Like I just can't be okay with that. And we just have to settle it in the middle.
Yeah.
So we need to, I didn't do any of my notes, but I don't know. I appreciate the time. I think it was really
Yeah.
cool. We've never done this before. So
Yeah.
thank you, ladies, for your questions. And we're always around, too. If there's anything else, if you guys have more questions, Brandon, super responsive. He's in the coffee bar, which we're supposed to both be in there by now. But do you want to go ahead and pray?